Imagine for a moment that you lived in a world where your happiness wasn't dependent on anything or anyone else. No longer would you wait for external validation or the approval of others to feel good about yourself. Imagine having the freedom to live your life authentically, unapologetically, without being weighed down by the judgments of others. What would that life look like? This is the essence of The Courage to be Disliked, a book that presents a radical philosophy based on the teachings of Alfred Adler, a prominent psychologist. Through a dialogue between a philosopher and a young man, the book explores how we can choose happiness, create change in our lives, and embrace the power of personal responsibility. What if everything you've believed about happiness, success, and self-worth is actually a misunderstanding? What if your happiness was always within your grasp, but you simply never had the courage to claim it? The philosopher in the book challenges the young man's views on life, offering him profound insights that will ultimately change his perspective on who he is and what he can become. It's not an easy journey, and it's filled with uncomfortable truths, but the freedom that comes from embracing these truths is nothing short of transformative. Chapter 1: Trauma Does Not Exist. Our story begins with the young man seeking answers about why he is unhappy. His life is burdened by pain from his past, his family, his school experiences, and the trauma he feels has shaped who he is today. He argues that the pain from his childhood is the cause of his current unhappiness. "How can you say trauma doesn't exist?" he asks the philosopher. But the philosopher, with a gentle smile, responds, "Trauma does not exist in the way you think." This is the first great shock the young man experiences. How can something so fundamental, so real in his life, not exist? The philosopher explains that Adlerian psychology rejects the idea that our past determines our present. Trauma, in the traditional sense, refers to experiences that have wounded us emotionally or psychologically, and people often believe that these wounds define us for the rest of our lives. But according to Adler, it's not the trauma itself that dictates our future. It's the meaning we attach to it. The philosopher teaches that we can choose the meaning we assign to our past. We can either let past experiences control us, or we can reinterpret them in a way that frees us. If you continuously tell yourself that you are defined by the pain of your past, you remain a prisoner of it. However, if you decide that your past no longer holds power over you, you gain the ability to move forward. The young man is incredulous. "So you're saying the pain I feel isn't real?" he asks. The philosopher responds, "No, the pain is real, but how you interpret that pain and how it shapes your identity is what matters." This idea is not about dismissing the reality of suffering. It's about taking responsibility for how we respond to that suffering. Instead of seeing ourselves as victims of our past, we can choose to see ourselves as agents of change, capable of creating new meanings and new futures. Chapter 2: All problems are interpersonal relationship problems. With trauma now off the table as an excuse for his unhappiness, the young man is eager to continue his exploration of the philosopher's ideas. They move on to discuss the root causes of personal struggles. The philosopher says something profound: all problems are interpersonal relationship problems. This statement catches the young man off guard. He thinks for a moment. "What do you mean by that?" he asks. The philosopher explains that many of our struggles, whether anxiety, loneliness, anger, or depression, are rooted in how we relate to others. In particular, our desire for approval from others can create immense psychological tension. We base our sense of self-worth on how others see us, and when we feel rejected or judged, we spiral into self-doubt. Consider how often we measure our value based on external validation, the approval of our parents, teachers, peers, or even strangers on social media. The philosopher argues that much of our suffering comes from trying to meet the expectations of others, often at the expense of our own desires and needs. The key to overcoming this is realizing that you are not defined by others' opinions of you, says the philosopher. You must free yourself from the need to be validated by those around you. As he listens, the young man begins to recognize how much his life has been shaped by his need to be liked and accepted by others. His feelings of inadequacy and frustration stem from constantly comparing himself to those around him, trying to measure up to an ideal that others have set. But the philosopher suggests a radical idea. You are already good enough just as you are. The philosopher challenges the young man to imagine what would happen if he stopped caring about what others thought. How would he act if he lived without the constant need for external validation? The young man is reluctant to believe it. He has spent his entire life seeking approval. But the philosopher assures him that only by freeing himself from this dependency can he experience true freedom. Chapter 3. The courage to be normal. At this point in the conversation, the young man is intrigued, but he still doesn't understand what it means to live without seeking approval. The philosopher offers the young man a critical piece of wisdom. You must have the courage to be normal. The young man is taken aback by this. What do you mean by that? He asks. In a world obsessed with achievement, recognition, and success, the pressure to be exceptional is overwhelming. But the philosopher insists that the courage to be normal, to simply accept yourself as you are, without trying to outshine others, is the key to happiness. The philosopher explains that the constant drive to be exceptional leads to dissatisfaction. It's exhausting to live in competition with others, always striving for more and more. When we focus on being special or better than others, we lose sight of what truly matters: being present, being authentic, and being kind to ourselves. The young man, still unsure, asks, "But what if I don't want to settle for being just normal? Doesn't that mean I'll never reach my full potential?" The philosopher reassures him. True greatness doesn't come from comparison or competition. It comes from living authentically and contributing to the world around you. When you stop trying to be special, you begin to experience the joy of simply existing as yourself. This is a profound realization. The idea that happiness comes not from standing out, but from embracing normality, opens a new door for the young man. It isn't about being extraordinary. It's about being authentic and letting go of the need to be someone you're not. Chapter 4. Desire for recognition. In the following chapters, the philosopher and young man delve deeper into the idea of recognition, the desire to be seen, acknowledged, and approved by others. The philosopher explains that most people's unhappiness stems from this very desire. Do you want to be free? He asks. Then stop seeking recognition. The philosopher explains that seeking recognition is a trap. It binds us to the whims of others' judgments. When we live for the approval of others, we are no longer free to make decisions based on our own values. We are constantly adjusting our behavior to meet others' expectations. True freedom comes from living authentically, without the constant need for validation. The philosopher encourages the young man to imagine a life where he no longer needs others' approval. What would that look like? How would he act? The young man begins to understand that freedom isn't about being praised or admired. It's about living in a way that is true to yourself, regardless of how others perceive you. Chapter 5. The courage to change. Perhaps the most pivotal moment in the story comes when the young man asks, "Can I really change?" After everything he's learned, he is still doubtful. He has spent his whole life feeling stuck, unable to break free from his past, his insecurities, and his limiting beliefs. The philosopher's answer is simple but powerful. Yes, you can change. The idea that change is possible is one of the core tenets of Adlerian psychology. You are not bound by your past. Your life is not set in stone. Change is always possible, no matter how old you are or how entrenched you feel in your current situation. But change requires courage, the courage to face discomfort, to step outside your comfort zone, and to take responsibility for your life. The philosopher explains that we often stay stuck in our current situations because we are afraid of change. Change brings uncertainty, discomfort, and anxiety. But if we truly want to live a happy and fulfilling life, we must choose to change, no matter how difficult or uncomfortable it might be. The young man realizes that the power to change is in his hands. No one can force him to change, and no external event can make him change. Only he has the power to decide that he will take control of his life and choose to become the person he wants to be. Chapter 6. Community feeling. The final lesson in the courage to be disliked revolves around the concept of community feeling. The philosopher explains that true happiness comes from a sense of belonging and contribution, not from seeking individual success or validation. Living a life of contribution, where we help others without expecting anything in return, is the key to living a fulfilled life. Adler believed that we are not isolated beings, we are social creatures. Our happiness comes from creating meaningful connections and contributing to the welfare of others. The philosopher encourages the young man to think beyond his own personal struggles and to focus on how he can contribute to the world. When we live for the good of others, we experience a deep sense of fulfillment that cannot be found in personal achievement or recognition. The young man begins to see that happiness is not about pursuing personal success or accumulating wealth. It's about living in harmony with others, offering kindness and support, and contributing to a larger community. Conclusion: by the end of their conversation, the young man has undergone a profound transformation. He no longer sees himself as a victim of his past. He no longer seeks validation from others. He understands that the key to happiness lies not in external achievements, but in embracing the courage to be normal, to change, and to live authentically. The philosopher's teachings have given him the freedom to see that happiness is a choice, and it's available to everyone, regardless of their past. The young man leaves the study with a newfound sense of hope, ready to face the world with courage and clarity.